Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Sorry about that. My name is Chris Jarvis. I'm the Director of Pricing Policy and Tools Division in the Office of Portfolio Management and Customer Engagement. And I'm just going to talk to you for a few minutes this morning about OASIS and what it is and what it's going to do for you as our customers. Basically, the group that I manages the rent bill management program, spatial data management, which is building drawings and space classification. We have our pricing policy team, and then we have the tools that we support our system to do pricing, to do billing, to do space measurement, all those programs. That's my group. So here's our robust agenda for the next 10 minutes. So by the end of these 10 minutes, you'll at least know a few of these things, and you'll have the materials if I happen to gloss over any of the information too quickly. So what is OASIS? In PBS, OASIS is the replacement system for a couple of our internal systems, which are the OATool and EOA, which basically produce the occupancy agreements for the space that you all occupy across the country. At any given time, PBS has 19,000 plus occupancy agreements. And that is, those are based on the space assignments and the rent and the appraisal rates. That all works up into your rent bill. So that's the foundation. So we've been working over the past couple of years to get away from our custom design software that has been in place for 20 years. Because, you know, as time goes on, systems get antiquated, they can't operate in the security environment. Everything's hard coded, it's hard to make changes, it's expensive. So a few years ago, we went through this process of determining whether a commercial off-the-shelf product was available, and if so, about replacing our system. And so we went through this procurement. We came upon the product we picked was IBM's Tririga system, which some of you may be familiar with. Tririga is pretty much an industry standard for managing real estate. So we wanted to maximize our flexibility by getting this off-the-shelf product. And of course, with an off-the-shelf product, it's not custom designed with what we need. So we had to make changes and allowances to how we do things in order to fit that, because you don't want to take something off the shelf and then customize it so much that you basically have redone the whole program and got yourself back into where you were with your old systems. And it gets expensive to change things. So basically, we're replacing our OATool and our eSmart system that does the building drawings. EOA is something that's online on gsa.gov where you can actually download your existing occupancy agreements that are currently in effect. So you can see them if you need them. Basically, we're moving forward into having everybody approve their OAs in the system, not having our people email you a PDF and say, okay, can you sign this? Can you get back to us? And then it sort of falls into no man's land sometimes, and people can't understand what OA version we're operating under, or where did it go, or did you sign it or not? Did we get it back or not? And it also gives you as customers access to all the data that's based on the OA and the rent data. So it's pretty useful for you as a customer. We're trying to move into the 21st century here with this product. We're really looking forward to it. Okay. And also you can ask questions in the system about your OAs, what's happening. I don't understand some of the numbers, the rates, et cetera. And also it incorporates the release of space process, which was a outside process where you would submit a release of space notice to GSA saying, I want to give back this block of space or this whole assignment of space. And, you know, sometimes those notices get left off, they get lost somewhere. Customers are still accountable for the space until they move out. And so that was something we wanted to incorporate as well into the tool, into OASIS. So we said at the beginning, this is coming soon, which is going to be the week of August 7th. So that's our planned launch date for the product. And that's coming up real quick. Today's the 25th. So we're working feverishly to make sure everything's in place and everybody's ready. Okay, what does this mean for you? I'm not going to read the slides because, you know, that's not necessary. It's basically streamlining the process so the people that need to get the OAs to approve them get it through the system. There's self-service for you where, like I said, you can get the rent data, occupancy data. The only people that are going to be in there approving OAs are the ones that you all have designated as your ordering officials. And so because we bought an off-the-shelf product, we only got a certain number of licenses. We estimated based on the workload, the number of OAs, the number of actions, a certain number of licenses. We will assess that as time goes on to see if we need less or more. But we're really trying to keep those people that need to get into the system on a regular basis as the ones that'll have access, not someone that would approve an OA once a year. We don't want to tie up a license just for that user. So the access, you're going to see all your data by AB code. You can print them, you can save them, approve them, ask the billing questions, submit your release of space notice. You as our customers provided all the names to us on who those ordering officials are. So if we want to make a change, it has to come from you. We don't want just some point of contact in the agency saying, oh, you know, I want access, I need access, I'm an ordering official. It has to come from the appropriate level of authority from your organization. And we're counting on you to keep that clear. So we keep those licenses controlled. What are we doing to prepare? Well, what's happening in the old days, many of you probably either experienced it or heard how many OAs GSA was sending. You know, the draft OA to start a project, an interim OA as the project continued, something changed depending on what region you were in. Not all the time were we consistent with sending OAs, whether we needed signatures or not. So you were inundated with occupancy agreements. And probably sometimes you didn't even know why you were getting them. It may not have been clear. Okay, is this for information? Am I supposed to sign it? Am I supposed to sign it and return it? What's the story? So it'll be much more evident in the system as far as tracking what's needed and when. So our plan is you're not going to be getting these OAs until the end when you're ready to start billing, until we're ready to start billing. So the client planning agreement, the CPA, which probably you've heard about during this session, hopefully, and before that, is basically the planning tool where we initiate a project, 24, 36 months in advance of your occupancy starting so that everybody understands the terms and conditions, the costs, and the timing for a project. So what's going to happen with the OA, we're going to send the OA to you all when it's ready to be finalized. So we have a final lease amount, we have a final construction amount on a federal project, and you're not going to see it changing 25 times in a week. It's going to be right before the project is launched and you're moving in, and here's what your total complete rent is going to be for that space occupancy. So it's no longer we estimating and re-estimating. It's going to be the final amount from the lease or the construction contract. So we're only going to send a revision if something changes in the project or the tenant improvement allowance amounts change, and it's an imminent award of a lease or a construction contract, as I just said. Okay, releases of space. In the past, we would have the emails coming back and forth. And we know that's important for you all because you're looking at your inventory and what space you need and what space you don't need. And you're planning on releasing space and returning space. And depending on your occupancy agreement, whether it's cancelable or non-cancelable or marketable space or not marketable, that's how we would work with whether the space is going to be accepted and released. And so when we accept a release of space, then we say, okay, you're going to move out 2 months from now, 3 months from now, 8 months from now, whatever the timing may be. And the space comes off your bill at the time that you have actually moved out. And then you're no longer paying for space that you don't need and are no longer occupying. Okay, there's some pricing policy changes that are attached to OASIS because it was an off-the-shelf product. We could only do certain things within the product. Then we have some changes to policy that are happening. don't know if you guys are familiar with the term joint use space. Basically, joint use space is like this auditorium, the healthcare unit, the health unit, the childcare center, the fitness center, cafeteria, joint use conference rooms that are all throughout our federal buildings and in some leases. That's all joint use. Well, let me tell you, nobody does joint use charges the way GSA does. We're different in the sense that we have to collect rent for that space, but we take that space and then divide it between the population of the building and the percentage. So if you're 50% of the building, this building, you would pay 50% of the joint use charges. There was no way to reprogram the off-the-shelf product to account for joint use. So that space is being moved into building common. It's still basically the same amount of rent that you would pay under joint use, but there was no way to separate it out. It won't be a separate line item. If anybody's interested in knowing how much conference room space or auditorium space or all those things are in your building, certainly we still have those records. For federally owned space, our approach is that these will renew annually unless there's a release notice. So if you're in the FBI headquarters building, the FBI has been there forever, probably not going anywhere anytime soon yet. We expect that occupancy is going to continue and it'll just renew annually unless there's a space change, then it would be reflected in the OA and reflected in the bill. Basically, the tenant improvements are approved at the principal amount and not as a rate per square foot. That was always confusing to people on the rent bill, how we were doing that. And it really was a cause for much consternation. Basically, you probably heard already and have seen GSA's change to the non-cancelable policy on lease actions that has happened recently. And that's going to carry through, going forward the same way that we had with our change in how cancelable, non-cancelable works. Okay, training. We do have training ready for everybody. It's being finalized. It has to go through the whole compliance of readability and accessibility. Basically, it's going to be 6 modules, 10 to 15 minutes or 5 minutes, depending on the topic. Those are going to be released the end of August, the end of July, I'm sorry, which is next week. We're working on getting those posted on our YouTube channel, and then everyone will have access. The system's going live the first week of August 7th, so that everybody's prepared. And in the fall, we're going to be having some support sessions. Everyone will get notified. Certainly our ordering officials. We have, hundreds, probably 400 ordering officials in the system right now that are getting their access set up to OASIS through OMB Max. So there's a connection between that. And so we're getting ready for the training and the sessions in the fall. And I think that's it. So that was a drive-by. I know I'm sure there's a lot of information. Please reach out, let anybody know on the customer engagement side if you have questions. I hope this was at least informative. Now you know what OASIS is. It's our occupancy agreement and space inventory system. And I'm welcome to take any questions if you have any.
Take a quick question and then we're going to go into a break.
Thank you. Hi, Chris. Elena Garrison. Nice to see you. How will the rent test pick up the customer agreements, the CPAs?
So the rent test that's done every year, 2 years before the budget year, they use the same information that we have currently in our internal OATool system. So they take a snapshot of the inventory in the February-March timeframe. That will continue. They are completely linked in with OASIS. So in the springtime of next year, they'll take their snapshot of the inventory that you have, and then that Exhibit 54, any changes that are going to happen after the March timeframe. But it's all the same linkages. Rent test is going to be based on OASIS as it was based on our OATool before. So there's not going to be any. Well, it'll capture what we know about. So if you have a change that's going to happen, they're going to be working on FY26 this winter and spring. If you know something that's happening years into the future, that's where you would capture on the exhibit 54, those kind of changes.
Okay. We're going to take a quick 10-minute break because we have to transition. So if you have questions, I encourage you to find Chris, if that's okay.